any fictional character that you would like to be or base yourself on? Who is it?
Oh, it's a good question. I'd probably say like Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory.
No way.
I swear to God.
Oh my God, because he's also a sociopath.
That is exactly why I would say.
He's like the role model for all sociopaths.
Why did you tee me up so well for that absolute slate of an
I
insult?
didn't even mean to. That's so funny. I can't believe how
Cut
that
that. You
worked.
can't call me a sociopath on fucking national television.
Didn't even mean it to you. Because what I think,
Yeah.
who's Alexander Skarsgård's character in Succession?
Ooh, he's great.
The Swedish guy.
Swedish guy.
I low-key think that's you.
You think so?
I think so.
That's the biggest. That's the nicest thing you've ever said.
It's a really good compliment.
Yeah.
I would think that was you.
Because he's super smart, but he's like cutthroat as shit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think
You know,
that could
someone
be
actually
you.
described me as that one time. My business partner.
As that guy. So this is the second time that's happened.
Which guy?
He's, Alex,
No,
Alexander.
not actually Alexander, but how you described Alexander in that performance
really?
is how he described me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Okay. But I don't mean it's like, I think you also got empathy.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not quite as cutthroat as that
No,
guy,
I would.
but probably just a nicer version of that guy.
Is he? Do you think he lacks empathy completely?
I think that he was quite no, maybe not actually. Maybe we just didn't get that side of him in the show.
Yeah, I think there were parts in the show where he shows like a softness.
You think so?
Yeah, like when he
Sending his blood to his intern wasn't like the most empathetic move. It's a weird move.
Yeah, but wasn't he sleeping with her?
I think he was sleeping at a time.
Yeah, I don't know. Good
Anyway.
way to start the show, my friend. It's always a pleasure, never a chore.
Absolutely. no, worry. I thought we would be a fun cold open.
Little fun
Yeah.
little way to start.
Anyway, it'd be very interesting.
Psychopath.
Mind your goddamn business.
But today, what we're talking about is money.
Money.
And it we obviously very important for both sides, for what Now does, for what Kesho does. Money is super important. So what we're going to talk about today is where does the money come from? Mm-hmm. Do you need money when you start? How do you get the backing of people? How do they get people to buy into your idea?
Oh, good questions.
So maybe let's start with there. So for when you started Now, what was the first move to get financial backing, or was it necessary?
Wow, two-pronged question. I would say that to start, no. Okay, let me say this. I would say I think there's two primary ways to start a business from jump in terms of money. One way is what's referred to as bootstrapping. And bootstrapping essentially is raising or using the funds that you have readily access to. So funds in your account, funds in your investment accounts.
Is that like your current salary?
Salary.
Okay.
Anything that you can access immediately, like it's on you, it's liquid, is what is referred to as bootstrapping. You're basically paying your way for the beginning of your business. The second way is then obviously raising funds. Both are two very different things. One of them, to some extent, is a lot of risk in that you're using your own funding. And the second is less risky, but risky in the sense of that you're involving a third party in your business, in your baby. How we started was that we initially bootstrapped. We bootstrapped our business because I think what people assume is that you need money on day one, which I don't think is correct. I think you need to validate your idea first, and often that requires you to do it through the funds that you have ready access to, so your own funds. So that's what we did. Our first port of call was, starting the survey, and we paid for that ourselves. And it was quite a lot of money. It was actually, I think, if I recall correctly, this was 2017. It was, I think we paid 12,000 Rand in 2017.
Sure.
Yeah, so it was quite a nice chunk of change.
Can I stop for a second, sorry, before you carry on? Because just to go into like specifics of it. So, for example, did you start it off with 4 partners?
No, it was just me and another chap,
So
two guys.
just 2 of you?
Yeah.
So when you started off, was that like pooling money together? Or was it like you would say, I'll pay for this, and then he'll say, I'll pay for this?
Oh, great
or
question.
how did you
No, we
do
would
that?
we would do everything 50-50. So big purchases, we would just do everything 50-50. And that's another thing. You have to also have, again, choosing partners wisely. You have to choose someone who is in a relatively fine financial space.
You made a terrible decision starting a podcast with me, but yeah.
Poorest man I know.
Yeah.
So those are the two primary ways that you can start a business. What did you do? I mean, you guys, again, NPO, I think fundraising is quite an important key of the whole like NPO thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's everything, basically. I mean, the whole concept of Keshaw is raising funds for other people. You know, like that's kind of what we do.
Yeah.
All we know how to do is be two marketers. So we understand that side of stuff. And then, you know, managing people and managing how we do things. So, and I guess a big one for me was always, and I made it very, very clear to Matthew, was, and he agreed, you know, is everything must be done as in a, how do we say this now? No capital. Must be no capital required.
Yeah.
It must be like,
interesting.
we go in with like almost zero overheads. Everything.
Brokey.
Yeah, no, but otherwise it's not sustainable, right?
No, I agree.
If we both have to put in £100 every month or whatever, it just means that it's like, it's always detracting from, you know what I mean?
I think that's a really good point. I think just to double click on that, I think a lot of people think their idea is more valuable the more money they throw into it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So on your point, it's like, cool, because I've put in £10,000, whatever, it means my idea is good because it mattered to me so much so that I put money into it. That may not be the case. You may just be putting money into a little pit of like a pit of hell.
Absolutely.
And just lighting it up.
So if you can, I think from making it sustainable, like our biggest overhead is like our website cost, which is like £24 a month.
Wow.
You know, like that's the biggest one we've ever had, really. So we try to create a model that didn't require capital, which we've done. So we've in our constitution, we can only use a certain amount of donations to go towards marketing, which is a very kind of low amount, like a low percentage of all money that comes in. And therefore, when we bring in money, most of that money is going to the charities that we support, like vast majority.
Wow.
So there's no real cost that we need to keep up. Like we wouldn't have got the backing of like Victor Matfield, you know, like if we had to,
fine.
you know, absolutely.
Fine.
But he's willing to help us. We go, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We see how that kind of marketing works.
No, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yes,
that actually makes a lot of sense. But I think a huge misconception with running and starting a business is that you actually need funding.
Absolutely.
I would say the longer I could hold out for funding, the better for the business. And let me explain why I say that, right? Scarcity is the mother of all invention.
Oh.
So when you don't have, you're way more likely to create. So you're more nifty. You figure things out a lot quicker. You go, okay, I don't have the way to pay for that. Like, how do I get that without necessarily having to put down, $5K, whatever.
Point.
So all of a sudden, you're learning a lot more, for one. Secondly, you're finding ways in which your business could tap into areas unknown, the places you would never have gone to because you had, R1 million from, I don't know, YC Combinator. And I think that initial stage of guerrilla learning, it compounds. And when it compounds, and the later stages when you do get funding, the things you do with that money are astronomical because you know how to navigate.
I couldn't agree with that point more.
Yeah.
And you were talking about before the pod, I was saying you're such a student, like you're always constantly learning, whether it's using AI or using like creative or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And I found myself doing the same thing, learning how to design, learning how the registration process is, learning accounting. Oh my God. My teacher literally said to my dad, don't make your son do accounting. This child is not meant to do this. Whereas now I'm doing finances and I'm doing budgeting.
Yeah.
And you're so right. So when eventually big funding comes in, fingers crossed, I'll know how to allocate that better. 100%. I'll know how we can be, we can do better with it.
You'll be positively frugal, right? You'll go, I don't know if we need a 10,000 Rand campaign. We could probably do it with a 2,000. And you figure it out. And the thing about what actually ends up happening with that is that your investors are obsessed with you because they go, every time I give that man my money, he 3X's the value of what that money is. I want to keep on giving that guy my money. So you end up having such a materially valuable relationship with your investor because they just see you as a reasonable individual that doesn't just toss away.
You're so used to being lean that money goes way further.
Exactly.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, from when money comes in, because you were underwritten, When did that come in? A few years ago.
So we got underwritten in, to be honest, it actually happened weirdly quickly for an insurance
remember
company.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
it happened. I mean, we pitched, our first pitch was to Lombard Insurance, and they bought in on our first pitch, which is unheard of in the insurance industry. You have to go through like 10 different people to eventually someone goes, okay, cool, I think I back your idea enough for you to kind of come on board. So we got funding relatively soon. Once we had developed the product, let me say that, let me caveat that. So the process of actually getting to a decent product took about 2 to 3 years. Once you reach that stage, getting the funding happened quickly. We went into a room with our, shareholder, Lombard Insurance. They weren't our shareholder at the time, they were just Lombard Insurance. We went into a hot, musty room in the middle of Johannesburg, and we pitched this product for 2.5 hours. I'm talking Rain Man levels of pitching. Like, have you seen Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind when he's like riding on windows and shit? Yeah, like we were literally like taking chalk, like this is, if we did this, and everyone was just looking at us like, what the fuck are these guys? But they like
The fact that they sat there for 2.5 hours must have mean there was some potential.
Yeah, there was, but there were a lot of questions asked. They crossed the T's and dotted the I's. And we had to answer all of them, and we had to be confident. And I think for the most part, what a lot of people make, the mistake they make in terms of trying to get funding is assuming that your personality doesn't matter.
Such a good point.
And they're actually inextricably linked. Because if you have an idea that's unproven, no track record, no projections, as an investor, what am I investing in? I'm not investing in the actual idea. There is nothing. There's no track record. It's just the idea in your head.
And there's lots of ideas going around.
There's a dime a dozen for an idea. I
Sure.
mean, you can find an idea in any nook and cranny. But if I look at you as an investor, and I go, that guy is resilient, he's confident, he's got clarity of mind, I feel confident in putting my money with you because of the traits you've revealed to me. So that's what you're investing in. And sometimes people fail to reconcile the idea that I need to work on who I am as an individual, who I am when I put my ideas forward, and they think my ideas will lead, and everyone's just going to buy in simply because I have a great idea, which is often
it's a great point, because essentially you've never met like an inward-looking salesperson, you know?
Yeah,
you look at like an introvert who's a salesperson, because
Exactly.
you go like, I don't want to talk to that guy again.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are confident, you can have a conversation. They're more likely to buy into you than whether
100%.
your idea or what you're doing.
100%.
Absolutely. That's why I think having a beer or just like having that little social warmer is always the best thing you can possibly do when trying to sell your idea or whatever. Just getting to know someone.
Totally agreed.
Because otherwise you're just someone saying like, hey guys, like I want your money.
Yeah. And but sometimes it's like, oh, you got to drink to make sure you can speak. I hear that, but I also don't. You know what I mean? Like you could have your glass of OJ or whatever, a water, and if you're just someone who's a compelling storyteller, or someone who just, knows how to listen really well and knows how to talk about people really well, you'd be surprised how much you can actually get. And one of the things that I think is also criminally underrated is, actually two things is criminally underrated, is saying someone's name, number one, when you speak to them, Nicholas McGregor, and number two, shiver my timbers, old boy.
Say it again.
Saying someone's name when you speak to them. And number two, having them tell their story. So literally, like, no one likes anything more than talking about themselves.
This is why we started a podcast.
Literally.
We're both narcissists.
Number one, apparently.
That it's such a good point, and we actually need to do an episode on how to win friends and influence people. Like, because just in terms of like, as you say them, I'm like, oh yeah, those are the bullet points.
Game changer.
Absolutely,
it's a book.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
But but also just to understand what their business does, what they're trying to achieve, what do they need, So you can go in there and go like, hey guys, this is my idea, and we do this cool shit, and but then if you're not listening to what they actually want, then it's like, okay, this guy, he won't stop talking, he's not actually trying to understand, he just wants my money with understanding what I actually want to do with my money,
100%.
no one's ever going to buy for your idea or buy for your
100%.
point. Absolutely.
Bro, I had this one friend who, what he does is once he meets you, he keeps notes on you. Yeah. So you'll be like, cool, my son was trying to get into Harvard. He's been trying for 2 years. He studied, undergrad law at University of Michigan. And my daughter's also like a volleyball player, and she's trying to, see how that goes. And he notes all of that down post the conversation. And the next time he sees you, he goes, oh, did your son get lucky with Harvard?
That is genius.
The volleyball thing, did that turn out? How's she doing with that? And what happens is that person's eyes light up. And they go, shit, this person listened and they heard me.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden, they're so much more willing to open their wallets, which is what you really want. You want the money, your money grabbing finger.
But I completely hear you. And
Yeah.
that social interaction is just so important. If I look at, so when you brought in our first sponsor, amazing company, it made so much sense. They're called Makuru. They're phenomenal.
Makuru.
They also
Shout out Makuru.
Shout out Makuru. They send money to Africa. That's what we do. They're an African company. They're also orange. Makes sense. But when we first kind of reached out to them, they were like, hey, come around to the pub. And we were like, yeah, like absolutely. And I think there was like a size up scenario. They wanted like, what are these guys like? What are they like in person? And from the first beer, we had like a house on fire. We had such a good time. I think we went home at like 2 a.m. that night.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had like the best night.
Yeah.
And we just liked each other working together. And they've sponsored us ever since. For every event, they'll message us. Be like, hey guys, like how can you work together again?
Damn.
It's a phenomenal relationship, but because we base it on the fact that we have similar ideas,
Yeah.
It's not just about, we're not clashing in any way. They want to send money home. They're an African brand. They want to reach Africans in London.
Yeah.
And that's what all our events and creating that community is about.
Wow.
Exactly.
Would you say like, how would you say you convinced them to back you? Like, what do you think was the key point in that discussion, that chat at 2 a.m. that you think the switch went off when they went, you know what, I think we'll put money behind these guys? What do you think that was?
I think it's a really good question. I genuinely, it's quite funny because when I met the guy who kind of runs marketing at Makuru in London, I was at an event, I was talking on a panel in like a sports sponsorship thing, and it was when I was still at eToro. I was on this panel and it was only 3 of us speaking to like 80 people.
Okay.
And then so there was this lady next to me and she starts speaking and she's like Italian or something. And then they give the mic to that other guy and then he starts speaking and he's South African. And I'm like, oh, that's so weird.
Okay.
And then I got the mic and then I start talking and I'm obviously South African as well. So we give each other like okay.
What do you know?
Hey, what up?
Yeah.
Real, recognize real. So we were... Anyway, so now we had this like weird tower in East London where there's like a slide that goes right down the tower.
Okay. What?
So, yeah.
Like a tower building, or was this like a tower?
Like a full-on
theme
tower.
park?
No, it's like a tower. It's weird. It's the West Ham Stadium where they had the event.
Oh.
So as we were leaving at the same time, and he was like, Brew, you've got to do this with me.
He called you Brew. He said Brew?
Yeah, no, we were tight by then. He was like, Brew, you got to do this with me. Let's do the slide together. This is like 12 o'clock. We're both going into the office after this. And I was like, yeah, let's do the slide.
Yeah.
So we did the slide together and then we had a laugh. Okay, and cheers.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I think that little connection, honestly, he was like, he trusts me, I trusted him. We both knew what we wanted out of this relationship.
Yeah.
And then when we had that conversation, it was like, guys,
You went down the slide with me one time.
Yeah, remember that slide?
Yeah. So guys, find someone to go down the slide with.
Yeah. If you first meeting on a playground, that's the best place to be.
Everything flows after that.
Absolutely. Roller coaster, even better. But when we had those first drinks, we had really broken down that barrier.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like, hey guys, we're here to help people. That's what we want to do. And they were like, we love that. We're both, the one guy's Zimbabwean, the one guy's South African, living in London. They're like, we love that. We'd love to back you. Let's make cool stuff.
Damn. So you think that, no, but genuinely, like, it's a funny story, but do you think that's what the kicker was? Like, just that familiarity, that bond that just created from a random activity?
The proof is also in the pudding, right? Because we'd already had a sold out event. On our first event ever, we sold out. So there was like they can clearly bring a crowd, you know. So that maybe I'm
Yeah.
putting too much gravitas on the relationship
Actual
thing.
slide
But
going.
I think where they saw the money, they were like, okay, we can back these guys because we
Yeah.
have that relationship. But then
Fine.
also the proof was there.
Fine. Yeah, that's interesting. Actually, I think one of my things was what the thing. So the one thing I like to do is when I think about funding and stuff like that, I always like to go back to first principles because I think first principles is the easiest way to understand if what you're doing makes sense and if it works. You can't hide from first principles. First principles is the baseline. When you're at home, before you have a funding meeting, what you wear from that jump already dictates how things are going to go. Yeah. So what you look like coming in is your first impression on the world. And people, as much as they like to be, I'm open-minded, I'm liberal, people care about what you look like when you walk through a door. It's the idea of if you walk in, you have to look, firstly, in a decent shape, and that may be subjective to you and what you believe in. It is what it is. But it's important that you dress appropriately. I think, again, free underrated action. Come there right, looking right. Things like be on time. You think it doesn't matter, but if you're late, someone goes, I don't know if I like that so much. It gives me the wrong feeling. So we were on time. We were dressed to nines. We came prepared. We were open. And another key thing that I think I found was we were relaxed. Investors are like dogs. And what I mean by that is they smell desperation. The way dogs smell fear. An investor, like a really attractive woman, can also like smell...
Sense the panic.
Yeah, or the desperate, like this person needs me. And no one likes desperation.
No one likes that.
It's like this weird, icky thing of like, oh, why do you need it so badly? Like, get away from... So you have to have that demeanor of like, I'm good with or without. I'm just here to tell you guys a good idea. And if you guys want to invest, well, that's on you. And having that, even though it may not be true, you may be desperate as all hell. Like literally, my rent can't be paid. My car note is due. Like you may be hella desperate. But if you can give off that like, no, I'm good. Let's just have a chat. All of a sudden, people are like, oh, why is that guy so chill? What does he know that I don't? And that adds to the allure, that adds to the whole aura of what you're putting forward.
It's so interesting because I agree. People want to help out and invest, whether that be with financially or socially, whatever, in things that are already doing well. It's if someone posts on their LinkedIn saying like open to work with a little green thing, you go, oh,
yeah, they need
like,
that.
Oh, no. you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like no one goes, oh my God, that person needs help.
Yeah.
Let's help them out.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to get
100%, because everyone's humans. The investors are humans. They're not aliens with four heads.
Absolutely,
they're humans, so they have the same reaction to desperation. So if you come in being like, they're gonna be like, what's wrong with this person that they need this thing so badly? Whereas if you come in like, I can do with or without, all of a sudden they go, I want to be part of that journey. That guy seems like a guy that makes things happen, irrespective of whether or not he gets what he wants.
It's such a good point because I suppose if you're an investor, you hold money, right? So you've got the money. So, and there's a lot of checks and balances you have to go through before you invest in anything.
Yeah.
So if the cosmetics, immediately that you see, this person comes in, they're not well dressed,
man.
they seem nervous,
Throw the whole thing
they
away.
seem, can I trust this person? I'm not sure. That's before they've gone through the books.
Literally.
They've seen what the product looks like,
Literally.
what in shape you're in, financially. So therefore you go, okay, this immediately is what I'm getting. Then I'm going to read that book by its cover every single time.
Oh my God, that's so right. Perception is the father of reality. If I perceive you...
What is going on?
Yeah, boss, baby.
Oh my God. Wow.
Jay-Z who? No, perception father. If I perceive you as desperate, needy, unsure, when I read your books, I'm going to perceive that in a negative light as well. Especially for 50-50 things. I'm not going to give you the benefit of the doubt because I've already perceived you in a negative light. So I'm going to go, maybe not. Whereas if you were like positive, confident, if I read the books at 50, I'm going to go, it's probably on the better side. It's human nature.
I'm going to let that one slide. I love Evander. I'm going to let that one slide. Yeah, no worries.
It's human nature. And the sooner you realize that, the quicker you can get that funding. The quicker you can accelerate to where you ideally want to be from a financing perspective.
Absolutely, yeah.
Key. So at the end of the day, do the right thing and go on slides with your friends. But don't do the hand to the heart thing.
Yeah, no, I won't do that. I'm not going to
It's
give my heart out to
Yeah.
anyone. Not anytime soon. But yeah, no, Unreal. I think what you went down through there, is super good points. You know, especially just from a cosmetic point of view.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's unreal.
Yeah.
And I think that's definitely something that people can take home.
Yeah.
Check you guys next week.
Love
Peace.
ya. Mwah.
Mind your goddamn business.